FCO, NTDO 212, com check.
CPS, go. Inco, go. PUS, go. Surgeon, go. Booster, go. Copy that. We have a go from you guys.
This is Talking Sound.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talking Sound podcast. I am Chris Jordan, your host, coming to you from Austin, Texas. Today on the show, we have the amazing and talented Scott Ertz on the show from PLuGHiTz Live and co-founder of Sumo to talk about websites. You know, what are you doing if you're a band, if you're a podcaster, even if you're a small business out there, a small engineer trying to build yourself a website, get a little bit of web presence going on. How do you white hat things? How do you keep from having to pay Google gobs of money to be found? What are the tips and tricks that you can do to be found out there with general organic searching? We will be getting into that. Please do remember the Talking Sound podcast is now proudly brought to you by Audible. If you're a fan of books like I am, just don't have time to turn the page, go on by, check out Audible. You will get 2 free books whenever you sign up. You'll get 30 days free with the code Talking Sound. Go to audibletrial.com/Talking Sound to get your 30 days free today. Scott, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty well. It is thundering like crazy outside, but inside it's doing just fine.
Nice. Yeah, we had our crazy rain here in Texas just the other day. It was pretty nasty too. Things went all kind of awry. So,
well, in Tampa, it's just 1:30 during the summer. This is just what it is every day.
Yeah, I was going to say that's just your afternoon shower. Like
exactly.
Yeah, I mean it drizzles basically every day there. It's really wild.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, Scott, you're on the show today. Tell everybody a little bit about your background, exactly what it is you do, not just for a living, but with PLuGHiTz, and how you got into coding, podcasting, everything.
Sure. So PLuGHiTz Live is my tech publication. We started that in 2007. It's hard to think in terms of single-digit years. In 2007, actually, we just hit 12 years about a week and a half ago that we've been doing this. We started with, interestingly, backwards of how most people start. We started with the podcast almost before that was a term, and added all of the other content later, whereas today it's brands that do a lot of writing and stuff that are adding, you know, the new media stuff on top of it. We started on the new media stuff. And unlike most, we've been live since episode 1, which has been an interesting experience. We've changed platforms a couple times over the years because, you know, when you're in your early 20s and working a retail job, free platforms work out real well. But
yeah,
you know, you grow to a point where you want control over your own content, your own distribution. So
yeah,
you stop doing that.
And how your content is distributed as well.
Exactly, because we made the number one mistake that so many new podcasters make, and we didn't control our RSS feed from the beginning. We let the host be in charge of that, when we stopped using them, we lost all of our listeners, and it really sucked.
Oh, man, yeah. And, you know, that's one of the things that I talk about in my HC Universal Podcasting boot camp all the time is make sure to buy the URL for your podcast. It's cool to go to Blueberry, Libsyn, whatever, because you don't, like, WordPress is simple. If you can figure out the layout of Libsyn, like I hopped onto that to join my network to it and feed our RSS feeds into a channel there. And it was like, good Lord, what is this interface?
I know.
And
And I always tell people, because I like speak at conventions and conferences and stuff, and I always tell people, if you're going to put in all the time to do it, don't make the big mistake to not be in control of it.
That's right.
So we made that mistake. That's why I'm able to speak on it. I've made it myself. I know what a big mistake it is.
Yeah.
And I don't like to see other people make it. But, we recovered, and, we've been doing it now for 12 years. It has changed significantly. It used to be just one show that has changed names a couple of times over the years. But it's our flagship show, F5 Live, Refreshing Technology. It's 12 years in, but today I host or produce 8 different series.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a production schedule, man. Like, that's gotta be a one-day sit down for 8 hours, 45 minutes an episode, and just bang it out. Like that's almost the only way. Just from our pre-show conversation, talking about our general daily lives and what we do. There aren't even 8 days in a week.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, for some of it actually gets into what we're going to talk about in a minute, and it's all about staying in front of your audience and making sure that you're creating content on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we started doing after we established our name, because you can't do it right up front, because if people don't trust you, who cares about what you have to say? We started doing product reviews.
Okay.
In fact, right now, I am talking to you on a microphone that is a current product review, and I'm listening to you on a set of headphones that's a former product review.
Great.
And so, we waited until we had, our brand established, and we started doing product reviews. So one of the series is just an unboxing series. So,
okay.
That's 6 minutes of taking stuff out of a box, and you do that once a week with a stack of products that's come in during the week, and it's no big deal to blow out 6 or 7 episodes kind of rapid fire. And then we've got one that's about FIRST Robotics, and so we travel around and go to competitions and talk to people during the competition. So that's kind of a more lax type thing, because it only happens a couple times a year. So some of them are regular, some of them are kind of sporadic. So yeah, that's
yeah,
that's my production schedule. It's a little calmer than it sounds like when I tell people we do 8 shows.
Well, and most definitely. I mean, even talking sound for a little while had a couple, because originally it was all video, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was all, but then I started traveling so much that it was like, well, there's no way. Like, there was a year or so there where I was trying to figure out how to do it, and just keep up with it. And it was like, man, I'm only releasing like 8 episodes a year. Like, that's all the time I have at home to be able to actively edit video together. And make this happen and make decent content where there's lower thirds, B-roll, all that kind of stuff, where it's not just a static camera shot.
Right.
And it was like, you know what? The only way I can keep this going with a proper production schedule is audio only. Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
Perhaps every once in a while, whenever I do an instructional episode again, because I used to do quite a few of those where it was like, okay, so here's how you maintain your soundboard. So your pots have started.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Here's how your pots have started crackling a little bit. Here's how you fix that. That kind of stuff. Here's how to properly roll cables. Great episode, which actually got a lot of listens. One of my largest listen episodes ever. That still gets a lot of hits. One of the guys that runs the platform Breach TV that we're on contacted me the other day and was like, dude, I just watched this episode and it's friggin' amazing. He's like, I got to watch this like every time I got a bad day. And it was how to collect past due gig money. Like, how do you handle this situation as a freelancer? Like when somebody hadn't paid you on time.
Okay.
And, but the thing about that is, despite anything going on in the world where news may come, news may wane, that is what's called evergreen content. That is something that 20 years from now, if Google exists or whatever the search platform or mental interface that we will be using to search Skynet, whatever it is that my son's going to be using, he'll still be able to find that information because that will still be a question. There will still be people that are free.
The information will still be relevant.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's important. Having a good mix of both evergreen content and like up to the minute content is a really good way to convince both Google and Microsoft that what you're doing is worth indexing at all. Yeah. Because that's, step one is convincing the two of them that it's worth indexing your content to begin with.
Yeah.
When we got started, like I remember having some like 2,000 items, pages in the robots. No, probably not that. The sitemaps files in the Google Webmaster Tools, and they're like, oh yeah, so 2,200 pages. We've indexed 11. Okie dokie.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah.
And so you have to figure out, what is it that they're looking for, and that nice mix of a little bit of evergreen, a little bit of up to the minute type stuff really does help them feel that your site is worth even looking at.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with how you're producing content as well. Like you were saying, you have a few podcasts that are semi-annual, that are sporadic because of stuff. They outside of when those events happen and are being covered live, those may not get as many listens as your weekly F5 podcast.
Sure.
Per episode, but the fact that you're releasing all that content to the same website and at the same time releasing F5 same time of day, same day every week. That consistency being there is uber important.
It is.
If you aren't paying for algorithmic placement of your website or your product or your business, your band, what have you, letting Google know, hey, this time every week you can guarantee that there will be content here.
Right. Because the thing that computers are really good at is pattern recognition.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you create a pattern for them, they're way more likely to believe that they're able to handle you.
Yeah. Well, at that point, they can put you in queue.
Exactly.
They know that they can aggregate links to you on that day because you're going to have stuff there. And not only that, but making that content attractive to Google, giving it and other search engines as well, but giving it as much data as possible, not just in your text, but backlinks to things. If you're describing a piece of software that you're using, hot link to the piece of software, like highlight its name. Put a link in there. Like guaranteed, whenever I write the description for this episode, there will be backlinks to F5 Live.
Right.
There will be backlinks to your bio on the PLuGHiTz Live website. All that kind of stuff. In addition to a video embed, a still image embed that's linked to something. 2 or 3 different versions of an audio player. So that, whichever browser you're using, you're covered. But on top of that, it's the fact of Google's like, ooh, look at all of this stuff that they are providing us. Look at all of this content. They're providing content in multiple media, multiple forms of media, as well as backlinks, as well as evergreen information, and a decent-sized description. One of the things that drives me nuts is people that give things like a 2-sentence description.
Yeah, yeah, because
like,
that's the worthless as far as SEO is concerned, because Google won't index anything less than 300 words.
You could have made those 2 sentences nothing but keywords, and it wouldn't make a lick of difference.
Not even a little bit.
Because there's and the way that works, folks, is it has to have organic stuff around it. You can't just throw a bunch of keywords in there. It's got to be a logical sentence. The paragraph has to mean something.
Yeah, because Google and Microsoft have both started running all of their text through a natural language processor.
Yeah.
To make sure that it's not just keyword stuffing and link stuffing and stuff like that, because they want to make sure that they're okay. So the SEO. Anytime you create rules, you create a game. Anytime you create a game, you have people who are good at playing it. And so Google being the referee, Google being both the rule generator and the referee of said game, is constantly looking for ways to find the people who are really good at playing the game and smack them down. And so to try and keep the playing field fairly level. And so, they learned the idea of keyword stuffing and link stuffing. And so they're like, oh, so this link is not within context of anything. Yeah. We don't care about it. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just throw links to Nike shoes into an article about computer programming. I mean,
unless it makes sense. But
sure,
yeah,
sure. Like if the sentence is about the shoes that the programmer's wearing, sure, highlight shoes with a Nike link.
Sure,
that will make
or if you're talking about
sense.
their customizer, where you can go custom create Converse or something like that. Okay, sure, that would make sense. But you can't just link to them, and that's when it comes to like our shows, right? Obviously, we want to include our sponsors in our content. But it used to be that we could just put a little bulleted list of sponsors at the bottom, but you can't do that anymore. You have to put it into a sentence with a call to action. Otherwise, Google and Microsoft look at it and go, keyword stuffing, and down your page rank on your page. So that's no good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why a lot of people always have the widgets on their website, stuff like that, where they can constantly have a banner ad for their sponsors up, that kind of stuff. But it's hard. And the idea here, folks, is to give you all some tips, some tricks, some idea of what to do other than just paying your local service provider to get you to the top of Google. Unfortunately, that might,
because that will be fleeting.
Exactly. And explain a little bit as to why that is fleeting.
Yeah. So in 2018 alone, the number that is sticking in my head was 550. And that number is important because that is the number of tweaks that Google made to their algorithm for search in 2018. Yes, that is more than one per day.
Wow.
So you pay somebody who knew how it worked on Tuesday, on Wednesday to do it. By Thursday, it's irrelevant. So all of the money you spent may have worked on Wednesday. By Thursday, it doesn't anymore because Google is constantly tweaking the algorithm. And by next week, all of what you did, you're just watching your page rank drop because those are the people who are good at playing the game that you're paying to do things. And so their tactics are the things that Google is specifically looking to try and smack down. So you'll watch your page rank drop. I've played the game. I went and just for the heck of it, I went and I paid an SEO optimizer to do a thing, not on our primary site because I didn't want to ruin what we had been doing.
Sure.
But just on a test thing, let's see if I can get this page on this domain to the top on this term. And within like 36 or 48 hours, they had me really high up on the search. And another 36 hours later, I wasn't on the top 5 pages.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to run that experiment because obviously, you can talk about it all the time. Well, 550 algorithm tweaks in 365 days. Well, that sounds insane. Let's prove it. Well, there it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, they talk about, they released that number at the end of 2018. They said 550 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's how much of a tweak is each one? How significant is it? Well, about once a week it's significant, and about once a day it's enough.
Yeah. No, it's definitely enough. And now, granted, if you think about those playing the game, as you said, those who know how to play the game, I guess to an extent that does kind of level the playing field to an extent between people that know how to play the game and people that necessarily don't. But at the same time, putting things out regularly, putting things out in good quantity will always keep you up there.
Right, exactly, because that's not trying to play the game. That's not trying to game the game.
No,
that's playing the game.
Yeah.
That's a very different thing.
Yeah, that's just producing content.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to prevent Michael Jordan and Kobe from owning the league. They want everybody to be able to play.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea of creating content, knowing how to write, or letting somebody who knows how to optimize, the little optimization.
Sure.
Things like if you're using WordPress, use Yoast. Guaranteed, use it or you're crazy.
Yeah.
It will give you all of the little
It tells
tips and
you
tricks.
what to do at the bottom.
Yeah. It's like, hey, so I know you've put a lot of work into this, but you're at 285 words. If you can get 15 more in there, Google will almost guaranteed index it.
Yeah.
It's little things like that.
It'll even tell you
if you were trying to...
It'll even tell you things like stop using so many college words.
Uh-huh. Or we don't see a whole lot of internal links in here. Perhaps this article from your website makes sense to include in here.
Yeah.
When I started to see that stuff, holy cow.
Oh,
it's like, you've been writing about Monster products. You did a review about one of their headphones a year ago. Maybe work that in.
Yep.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, because it scrapes your own URL and finds stuff within your keywords that you've put inside your article that you've already written about. It's great.
Yep. It's really impressive. We unfortunately we've been around longer than WordPress really supported podcasting. So we're still grandfathered on our own hand-rolled platform that we couldn't get out of if we wanted to at this point.
Yeah.
12 years in. But, if I was starting out today, guaranteed WordPress and PowerPress to do the shows for sure. No questions asked, because we use WordPress and PowerPress for the TPN network site. And
it's so easy.
Oh, the stuff that does for us, that's when I started to encounter all this stuff. I'm like, holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could integrate this stuff into my own thing, because this is awesome.
Yeah, splash page integrations, calls to action, all kinds of stuff, especially once you start doing plugins, everything else. I've gotten to where I code my own WordPress sites now, at least get into the template that I've purchased that I like, and I tweak it and change it and do all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's easy enough that I've taught my wife to run her own WordPress site for Yes But Why podcast, for her comedy podcast. It's easy enough that any untrained person can turn on WordPress, build a couple of pages, and start making posts.
Yeah, and obviously there's a couple of WYSIWYG style systems out there, but the thing that sets there's really two things that sets WordPress apart. One is the plugins.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that the fact that at last count 60% of the internet ran on WordPress, that's a good starting point.
Wow.
But isn't that crazy? It's the reason why PHP is still a language today, is because
and it's such a new platform when you think about it, like as far as technology
in the grand
goes.
scheme of things, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize that the percentage was that large. I knew that it was quite a bit, but I didn't think they'd verged over 50 yet. That is crazy.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable number. Basically, if you look at every startup in the world, they're using WordPress as their thing, and there's 100,000 startups every day, so that certainly skews the number. And then you've got Todd Cochran out there making PowerPress better every day. So a bunch of podcasters are using it too. So that all of that helps. But the plugins are great. But on the other side, the fact that the WordPress organization has such a strong relationship with Google, the structure of WordPress today is designed specifically to appeal to Google, which is a very different setup from something like Wix or Squarespace or something like that, which is also technically a WYSIWYG editor, but not the same thing, even remotely, because it's not designed with Google in mind. And WordPress, they did a whole big internal structure change like one major version ago. And so it is designed specifically to appeal to Google. Wow. Passing that up is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I always recommend people, because I know a few people that are like, I went to WordPress and started my website. And I'm like, oh, no. Now,
so close.
No,
so close.
You were right there. You were right there. The real thing, folks, is that you need to go to a provider. Be it like I use NetFirms myself. I'm not sponsored by NetFirms, folks. This is no commercial for NetFirms. GoDaddy, HostGator, URL, baby. I don't know if that exists, but go wherever and purchase your URL. That should be step one whenever you're starting a show, whenever you're starting a band, starting a business. It will behoove you to just sit down one day with a couple of drinks and just go on a Google stalk. Yeah. Start Google stalking the name or ideas that you have for your .com, what have you, because you'd be surprised. Back in the day, there were people that literally just sat around and bought these names for pennies. Pennies.
Yeah. And okay, so here's an important topic in that realm. When you're doing your domain stock, do it at Network Solutions. Don't do it at like GoDaddy, because since he sold the company has been known to watch for search traffic on domains that don't get purchased and register them themselves and make them premium domains. Yep. So Network Solutions doesn't do that. Do all of your research there.
Okay. Good to know. Great tip. Great tip. Most of mine is normally just on Google.
Screw yourself out.
I just start Googling names, and if I see a website near it, like my brother and I were talking about starting up a sci-fi podcast where we listened to old sci-fi episodes, like public domain radio episodes, and then talk to somebody like you, or talk to like an AI programmer and like, okay, so what is real from that episode?
Sure. Where are we compared to where that story is?
Yeah, like we all know that the flip phone was inspired by Star Trek, but it goes way deeper than that. And it's crazy what some of these dudes wrote about years ago that is absolutely real now.
Isaac Asimov is a great example.
Yeah, and to see that stuff, to be able to talk about that, to be able to put that out there, you've got to know how to think about this from the beginning. You've got to start Googling what you're thinking about before you go out to buy your web address.
Yeah, for sure.
Because next thing you know, you'll be buying, like, there's nothing, I guess, against a .net. I myself, my business is a .org. And quite honestly, folks, that is my own fault. I owned htproductions.com at one point. Let it lapse. Somebody bought it, and then it became like I think it was like an off-road BMX video company out in Vegas for a little while. I keep track of it. Like, I keep track of my baby and what it became. And I've finally taken over because of my podcast production and other things that I'm attached to. I've finally taken over my old .com in the internet world whenever you search, but it took a long time to do, and people are always like, wow, how'd you get a .org? Are you like a 501c3? And I'm like, no, I just paid $12 for a .org. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say it's not like a .edu where you have to provide your accreditation to get it.
I mean,
because like the PLuGHiTz Live. Oh no, F5 Live is a great example. You can put in a lot of top level domains. F5 Live dot all kinds of things, and it'll all end up in the same place.
Yeah. And if you've got the money, I always recommend, if you're available to buy the .com, .org, .net, even .ninja. That's my favorite one nowadays. I bought my nephew was like, I want to learn web coding. I was like, oh, that's the best thing I've ever heard. Not only are we at a Rush concert and you told me that, but check this out. And I immediately went onto my server and was like, you now own Nathan.ninja. Like, I'm not going to give his last name out on air, folks, but he was like, whoa, are you serious? I was like, yeah, they sell .ninja addresses now. So it's funny. Wild, the domain names that you can buy, but the main thing, despite any name you buy, a .com it can be listed over a .org or a .ninja. It's about what you are producing and putting out there.
Exactly. Now, it is important to note that, some top level domains, people will be inclined to skip.
Yes.
Some people are never going to go to a .xyz for a couple of reasons. But, the basic ones, com, net, org, even CO is pretty trusted. TV and FM are both are pretty accepted at this point, despite the fact that they do not mean what people think they mean. They are my two favorite top-level domains, by the way.
Ooh.
Tuvalu and Federated Micronesia are what TV and FM are.
Nice.
They are not at all what they sound like. Anyway, but some of the top-level domains, .reviews, last I heard, 85% of the stuff that was on .reviews is scam stuff. So,
wow.
If people know that, they're never going to go to a something.reviews website. I won't. Even if I think that it's legit, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
So you do. Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, I'm sorry. We had a bit of a glitch there.
No worries. I was saying that Google doesn't care what your domain, your top level domain is. They only care that you're producing content that people care about.
Yeah, precisely. And now we were talking a while ago about SEO, everything else. In your opinion, is it worth paying an SEO developer for a website?
I think that the stuff that WordPress has done has taken care of the majority of that, because most of the fact that they work with Google to build it for Google is a good starting point. And when you add in a tool or a couple of tools like Yoast, and then you add in some of the Sumo Me social tools or Add This social tools or something like that, honestly, getting the social recognition, which bounces back to Google, and then getting a structure that Google is comfortable with, which is what WordPress produces, and then being able to write in a way that Google likes, which is what Yoast produces. You combine those three things, I think most people can can handle it. But when you're getting started, or if you see a huge dip all of a sudden, maybe engaging somebody to do an analysis on what might be wrong is not a bad idea.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely the concept of having a good curated list of keywords that you're using in every post that kind of unifies the beginning of your keyword string,
Mm-hmm.
Things that cover what your website is about and your evergreen content. And then, of course, you put in keywords into the tags and stuff for whatever you've just written about or whatever post you've just put forth. But it can be worth it, I think, on the front end to find somebody that does it to curate a good list to start off with of tag words to put in for posts and pages on your website.
Yeah, for sure. And there are some tools out there that can automate that, keep a person out of it, so it'll make it a little less expensive. Something like, I know they just changed their name yesterday, and I have no idea what the new name is, but Web Text Tool. It kills me that they changed their name yesterday. A tool like that is really helpful to analyze what you're writing and what you're producing to get a feel for how both people and computers are going to respond to it, which is what you're talking about with bringing in a professional. This is the computer that's a professional. I've been using that tool for a while.
Yeah, and all of this is, of course, for websites that are posting original content regularly. It can be a little bit different whenever you've created a band website, whenever you've created even a brand website that is not regularly pumping out information. I guess putting posts up on a weekly basis. I mean, of course, if you're a band, you should absolutely be making posts to engage your audience, to engage your fans. You should be making posts like, hey, we're up here. Hey, this is our newsletter. Having people sign up for something like that, putting things like that out.
Here's photos from last night's performance.
Yeah, exactly. Putting those kind of things out. I'm a big fan, especially of static URL sites, people that are, I guess, selling a service or, I guess, informational websites where have an RSS feed of news related to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
If anything, that in and of itself, and having an RSS feed of things like if you're, let's say, my God, the word just left my head, and that is not frequent. If you're a charity, for instance, and you just have the static website there, put up some news about what your charity is about and aggregate those news feeds from other places.
Sure. I have a client that is an IoT services provider, and they obviously, it's a very small team. They can't, produce content on a regular basis and get their client work done. So they use Paperly to create what they call the IoT Daily, which is a great little thing. It's, it gets social engagement. It's pulling things from social and contacting the people who posted it to let them know that they've been included, which brings more attention back to your brand. It's Paperly for somebody with a static, like a what I call a digital brochure website. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
Paperly can be a great benefit, especially if you pay the like $3 a month or whatever to be able to include it on a subdomain on your own brand.
Ooh.
So like for us, for this client, it's like iotdaily.softwarelogistics.com. So it is on the company's domain name, but it's all automated and handled by Paperly. So it helps your domain rank on Google, which overall helps your page rank.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It is my new favorite tool for static pages.
Wow. Yeah, I've got a few people with static pages that I got to tell about that. Because, I mean, I've basically told them one of them is actually like a human trafficking charity based here in Austin.
Okay.
And, they're doing great stuff. They're out they've created like a VR simulation that they're taking out and like really getting great response with. And they were like, man, it's tough getting up there. Like, how do you, like, without paying gobs of money? And I was like, man, and I was showing him the RSS feed that I use for Talking Sound, because we have the industry news section where it's articles from all kinds of distributors, manufacturers, new products coming out, things like that.
Sure. Sure.
And I was like, look, man, all you got to do is go on to FBI.gov, start aggregating news from there, start aggregating news from like, World Health Organization about it, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're engaging people and providing news that they're looking for,
Exactly.
So and at the same time, providing Google with that regular post that you wouldn't be making. If you've got just a generalized product that you're out there selling, like you said, a digital brochure website, you don't necessarily have the need to make a post on a weekly basis all the time.
Right.
But to have something like that is related to what your website is and will still be seen as organic by Google is great.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a number of ways of doing it. Like I said, Paperly has become my new favorite, and RSS ingestion is another great way of doing it as well. Yeah, and it's all about finding the content that is right for your website, right for your brand, whether you're creating that content or aggregating that content. Exactly.
I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time out here to come on and chat with our audience today about how to go about, like we're saying, white hatting Google, making sure that your content is getting out there, making sure that your content is staying in front of eyes on the internet.
Right. Exactly.
So,
yeah, I'm happy to do it. It's a topic that I always enjoy talking about.
Yeah. Well, tell everybody where they can go to find the podcast, where they can go to follow your RSS feed, because I've started doing it, and some of the articles are great. They are so fantastic.
I appreciate that. PLuGHiTzLive.com, PLuGHiTz, PLuGHiTzLive.com. If you add /subscribe to the end of it, you'll see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and Stitcher, and TuneIn, and all those things. There's quick links to get to everything. And under the upstream is what he was just talking about, where we post all of our articles. But we've also got product reviews, like I mentioned earlier. Like I said, I'm talking to you on a product review right now. I'm dual wielding. I'm literally doing a product review while we're talking.
Feel free to use this audio.
I was going to say, I'm going to include this episode in the product review.
Sounds good to me.
So that people can hear the sound quality on this microphone, which, by the way, I absolutely love and will be on sale for Prime Day. Anyway,
shameless plug time. What microphone is it?
The product line is called Neat. It's actually the guy who founded Blue Microphones.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about them lately.
Yeah, so I love Neat. You probably saw the conversation in the podcast group the other day. I actually have the whole line sitting around me right now. The one I'm using right now is the Bumblebee, though I use the Beecaster more frequently. but it's set up in my office right now. So I brought this one in instead.
Nice.
But yeah, I love this thing. It's going to be on sale for on Prime Day for like $79 or something like that.
Whoa.
I know. It's crazy. This is the equivalent of like the $220 Blue mic. And then the B-Caster, which is my favorite USB mic I've ever used, was originally $350, and it's going to be $99 on Prime Day.
Whoa. That's crazy.
It's dual microphones, so you can do left-right diversity for a two-way interview. It's got a headphone amp built into it and everything. I love it.
Oh, wow, that is incredible. I might have to buy one of those just for my Go kit.
Right? Somebody getting started for $100 is a great way to get in.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful, beautiful way to get in. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And Skipper is obsessed with microphones. That's his thing. It's like Noel Lee and headphones. Skipper Wise is obsessed with microphones, and so
I'm the same way.
That's where Neat came from.
My wife has just kind of stopped asking about where microphones come from. I ran a live sound company for a long time, which was, of course, the beginning of Talking Sound, and then it branched out from there. But I've got a drawer full of mics that are just stage mics. Like if any of my friends are like, "Yeah, man, I need a few mics for a gig," here you go. Just bring them back. Don't puke on them. That's all I ask.
Yeah, exactly.
But then over on the corner, it's like, there's my $2,000, studio mic, and it's wrong. It's an addiction. Once you get into microphones, I've actually settled into the MXL BCD ones for my mic here in the studio. I guess they're kind of a version of the RE20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
gotcha. I just switched to the King Bee from Neat for the studio recently as the official studio thing. But like I was telling you before the show, my mixer is being replaced this week, so things are kind of torn up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm getting to talk to you on something different today.
Yeah. Well, fun. I mean, anyway, they sound great. It sounds beautiful.
Yeah. I am absolutely in love with these things. Skipper does a great job with what he does. People who knew Blue before they went independent, and then obviously long before they got bought by Logitech, knew how good Blue mics used to be. Yeah. And all of that quality has moved over to Neat today.
All right. That is great to hear, because that was a brand that was like, oh man, when that happened, it was like hurtful.
Yeah. I mean, Todd Cochran from Geek News Central and from Raw Voice, which we were talking, Blueberry, we were talking about earlier. He has a saying, "Friends don't let friends podcast with Blue."
I love it.
He's been saying it for a couple of years, basically ever since Skipper left, because the quality totally changed when he left.
And it's sad to say, but like Focusrite has almost become the same way. I know. Like I've got two different boxes, and I've just slowly moved away from them.
When the Scarlets were that crimson color versus that like Crayola red that they are today, they were great. Yeah. But the Crayola ones are not what they used to be. Yeah. They're basically the M Audio box at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
in fact, they run the same drivers. Anyway.
Sorry. We went down another rabbit hole there.
Yeah, we digress. But reviews, and that's the point, because like we were just saying, we go into detail on stuff. I like to really dive in and get to know the background behind the product, like knowing that all of these products in front of me were designed by Skipper Wise, who has a background in jazz, and he's an interesting guy, and he's obsessed with microphones, and knowing his background really is able to give me perspective on the reviews, which is why I enjoy doing them.
Yeah, exactly. They're super fun. So once again, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. explain all of this to our audience and helping provide some great evergreen content for never forget that word, folks. It's a great word to remember, evergreen.
Yeah,
provide people with something that they could go back and listen to 10 years from now and it will still be relevant to them.
Absolutely.
That's the idea. As long as you were doing things like that on a regular basis, you won't have to worry about paying somebody for SEO optimization and trying to surf a wave that just never really happens.
Right.
It's a wave that never crests. It never crests.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a lump on the ocean that kind of pushes you forward.
But it's always in a different location.
That's it. So thank you so much for coming on. Please do hold the line while you are online checking out all the great work of Scott Ertz at PLuGHiTz Live. Please do stop on by TalkingSoundPodcast.com. That is where you can find not only all the episodes, but the interactive map of the U.S., where if you are a free agent like myself in the audiovisual game, you can go and find gigs all over the country. Just go click over your area, and you will find a list of companies in your local area that hire freelance AV techs. While you're on there, you can also check out the industry news. Make sure to go onto our parent network and check out all the great content there, hcuniversalnetwork.com. And once again, thank you so much to our guest, Scott Ertz, today for his great knowledge. Until next time, everybody, please do remember, take care of yourself, take care of your hearing, and keep reaching for 11. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
This is Talking Sound.